Let's count down.
We're on.
God damn, Sammy, you forgot the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, man.
Can you hear us, Sammy?
All right, guys.
Well, thank you, Sam, for the countdown.
Yes, I appreciate it. All right, man. What are we? 6th, 7th? I was forgetting. I think it doesn't matter right now.
We are the best live podcast in the Rio Grande Valley today.
Self-acclaimed or
at 6:41 on a Thursday.
All right, here we go, man. Welcome to the Vaquero podcast. Again, the last few shows have been really, really good, and I think it just keeps getting, better and better, and we keep getting a little better in regards to questions and talking and just a little, getting rid of the shyness of it, man. But it's going to be a good one today, and we've talked to many head coaches. We've talked to, Matt Locke. We talked to Coach Bush, the last one, and those are awesome, man. But it's also
Coach
awesome.
Lord, the last one.
Last one was Coach Lord.
That's correct.
I like the way you do your voice real low.
Well, I get,
is that the way you say
gotta get
Lord,
the
or is that
ladies to tune in.
His
Mexican
podcast coach has been paying off there. Keep taking those lessons. You're getting better.
But again, man, these are all head coaches, big names for UTRGV. But, man, honestly, this is the biggest, no offense to any of the other coaches. Coach Chase Conque, man. And I say coach, but, he is the guy. He is the athletic director for, university. And, honestly, I mean, we're just ecstatic that you're here, Coach. Welcome. And again, let's get that clap going there, Sammy. I don't know if you can or not.
Yeah, put that clap, push that clap button. There it is.
Cool deal. And, welcome. Thank you so much, for being here.
Appreciate you guys. I mean, and I know we'll get into it in a minute. Usually I bring gear, or I'm out of tricks, right? You got everything that you possibly need. So I bear no gifts, but a ton of appreciation for what you guys do for us. And y'all legitimize us, and opportunities like this to talk about the university and the department are meaningful to us, but we simply can't thank y'all enough. No, y'all are big time for us, so thank you.
More than welcome.
You bet. Can you hear me now? All right.
There you go. All right, man. I mean, we'll hit the ground running, and pretty much the same question. Always the first thing, give us a little bit of your background, where you started, and how you kind of came to the position you're at now.
Yeah, it's a little bit different background than most, but what's crazy is I'm about to finish my 10th year as being an athletic director, and time has flown. I mean, it is crazy as we look back over these last 10 years. Almost 5 here at UTRGV, but I think you got to go even further back. I'm a son of a college football coach. I'm a grandson of a college football coach. My uncle's still a head college football coach, and so all I've known is college athletics. I was born in Thibodaux, Louisiana, and my grandfather was a head coach at Nicholls State. My dad was playing for him, and my dad was crazy enough to marry the head coach's daughter, so you can imagine that whole dynamic. But born in Thibodaux and moved around a lot. My grandfather then became the head coach at McNeese State in Lake Charles, and then from there, my dad went to Samford and Louisiana Tech, and became a head coach at Central Arkansas. So you're going to hear a lot of the familiar names of Southland schools and FCS schools. And so most of my upbringing towards the end of my high school years and college years was in Arkansas, but then got into athletics right out of college. Started off as a graduate assistant, worked in the foundation office, and then quickly started my journey in college athletics. I had 2 stints at Little Rock, spent a total of about 4 years there the first time. Got out of athletics, which I never thought I would. I worked for the medical center, the University Medical Center there in Little Rock for about 3.5 years. And then was really, really blessed at a very young age, at 30 years old, to become the AD at the University of Arkansas, Little Rock. So it has been a ride. It's been a journey, but we couldn't be more blessed and grateful to be here in the Valley and get to be experiencing and be part of the things that we're doing right now. It's truly special.
Awesome. And was coaching I guess the original plan, or was
that
it a plan
ever
to
an
be
option?
administration?
What's funny is, and again, I was very fortunate. I got to travel a lot, and probably most of my childhood was in Ruston, Louisiana, when my dad was at Louisiana Tech, and so I really got to go to some really neat places. I mean, they played in some tremendous places. He had worked for some great head coaches and some great athletic directors that at a very young age, they would let me go sit in their office and just pick their brains. And so I would sit there with the AD at La Tech and talk to him about ideas, and he would put up with this young punk that just came in just to talk. And the weirdest thing about this all, so many young people, you grow up wanting to be a coach. You grow up wanting to be a doctor or a professional player. At 10, 11 years old, I wanted to be an AD. I mean, who says that, right? Who says like 11 years
Chase
old?
Conque.
I want to be an athletic director, and really that's when I just started to gravitate towards this business, and you love higher education, you love people, and then you get to see a lot of what we'll talk about. It's about community, it's kids and community, and so I got to see that through my dad as a coach for many years. And so coaching never was on the list, believe it or not. It was always getting into this side of it, but still being around it to still have that impact and be able to do what I do every day.
But you must. I mean, at some point, you must have been able to pick apart. Like, hey, you know what? This coach is a good coach. This coach needs a little bit of work. He's a little rough on the edges. I mean, you do it now. I mean, sure. You do it in a high level with UTRGV. So. I mean, that must have always been some sort of a trait you had, moving into the AD world.
I tell folks I learned through osmosis, right? And you think about it, becoming a Division I AD at 30 years old, there's a whole lot that you don't know at that point. But where I was very fortunate and blessed is I got to grow up in that household, right? I mean, like I said, my grandfather was a head college football coach, so was my father. I got to see. And a credit to my dad, he's most successful coach in Central Arkansas history and had an unbelievable career. And so I got to see what worked. I got to see him grow as a coach. And then, of course, the coaches that coached for him and that he knew and that he'd worked with, or the coaches that he coached for that were very successful. So, yeah, you observe all those things. Right. And then what I got to observe as well is what was his relationship with his athletic director? What was his relationship with his president? And so you learn so much by just watching that, being in that living room, and so I think that gave me more than a head start. When I became an AD 9.5 years ago.
Well, something's for sure true is that you come in here and you just kind of flipped it all around. I mean, no doubt. I'm a longtime Edinburgh resident, Fabian as well, Sam. También, más o menos.
From Las Milpas.
And when Chase comes in 2019 to today, I mean, you're talking about, total 360. I mean, the program's not only just one. I mean, you're talking about all the way around. Now we're looking at football here next year. That's something that you must be proud of.
Yeah. It's been an awesome 4.5. It'll be 5 years, I guess, this summer. But it's a village approach, and if we didn't, every piece of this puzzle, none of this would happen if we didn't have every piece in place. And what was so intriguing back in 2019, and my wife Lisa and I talk about it all the time. It didn't take long through the process to realize that all the pieces were in place. As you look at universities across the country, as you look at communities across the country, we both looked at each other and said, it can be done here, and it can be done at a high level. And it starts with the community. And then my first interactions and the front porch for me in the process was our president, Dr. Bailey. And when you get to see what he's about, when you get to see what he's been a part of, when you get to see his passion and hear his passion for this community, and then the importance and the priority that he puts on college athletics, and he made that very clear in the process. This is where we are, but this is what I want, and this is what I want to have as part of the portfolio of the institution. And I remember after my press conference in August of 19, he came up to me and he said, "People are excited." And I said, "Dr. Bailey, people are excited because you're excited." And so it starts with Dr. Bailey and his vision for the institution. And then you look at our leadership team that we have at the university, the vice presidents I get to work with every day, Veronica Gonzalez, Michael Mueller, Maggie Hinojosa, Kelly Nassor, just a tremendous group of people that I get to work with and do this with every day. And so it really there was a small group institutionally that we were all rowing in the same direction at a very early time. But then COVID hit, right? And so I get here in August of 19, 6 months running as fast as we can. Rally the Valley became something that we started to take serious, started to put content behind and really push. And then you look up in March and here we are, having to obviously shut down. But there were a few things, some indicators early that were really exciting that you could see things, that they were either turning or, there were some really good trends. But one thing that I give our senior team, and then you talk about the department and the staff that we have and the coaches that we have and the student athletes buying into it. But during COVID, we all had to do this. We all crisis managed. Every day we had to crisis manage. But early on, I remember a meeting with our staff, probably via Zoom or conference call or whatever we were using in the early days of COVID. Let's come out of this thing fighting. Let's crisis manage. Let's take care of our young people. Let's take care of our coaches. Do what we have to do as administrators. But let's make sure we carve out enough time to plan for what we want to look like when we come out of this. And that's where our staff had such a big role in this, and that we did deal with the day-to-day, but at the same time we were planning. The facilities we're building, that started in December of 19, that master planning, right? Those things, y'all know, take time. Yep. The football conversations. Obviously, the study was done a few years prior, kind of put to the side for a little while, dusting that off, working through everything that we needed to do internally. And for us, it was really neat because we got to do it under the radar. It was kind of a time that most people probably thinking that's not what they're working on over there. But we got to work through that. And then you add the community piece, and you see everything that's transpired. And we know football is playing a huge role in this, right? And as we were going through our men's basketball search, the last 8 weeks ago, I would tell our candidates, there's been an awakening. There's been an awakening in the Valley that people are going, that's my team. That can be my team. Maybe their gateway is buying football deposits, season ticket deposits. Maybe their gateway is, coming to a basketball game or a baseball game. But I really feel like people are now starting to say, that's my Division I team. Yep. And that's the success, the community support, the buy-in. And then you got to talk about our students. And really everything that we're excited about today, if it wasn't for our students in the fall of 2021 passing that referendum, none of this would be possible. They were the first to say yes. They were the first to say, you know what, we believe in our experience. We want it to be even better. We want the campus life and the student experience to be enhanced. And they were the ones that passed that fee to be able to support football and swim and dive and marching band and all the other initiatives we're doing. So all of those pieces are key. And if there was one of those pieces missing, none of this would be possible. And I think it's one of the greatest stories in college athletics right now.
I mean, I completely agree, and you said it best, and I think it also goes back to you. And you said, Mr. Bailey, he was fired up, and people saw it, and that's why everybody else is fired up. But it works the same with you, man, and you can see it. We go to these press conferences that you're holding, and you can feel the excitement in you. And again, it's that leadership, but obviously you're learning from somebody that has that same leadership, and it's obvious that you're seeing that excitement, and that's the key, I think, or the word that I can think of is that the excitement of UTRGV, the not only the excitement but the pride that is in UTRGV. This is something that I think when I finally realized, okay, this is a Division I university. This isn't a community college. This isn't something. This is a Division I university, and I think that's something a lot of people don't realize yet. But I think they're realizing it more and more, and they want to be a part of it. And the kids are now, coming out of a sophomore, junior year saying, I want to go to UTRGV because it is a Division I university. It is competitive. It's not just because it's in our backyard, it's nothing, not so serious. And it's a big deal, So when you say that the excitement is there and you're excited and you're showing it, but from when you started, obviously there's been a huge growth. And is there something that you realized and said, okay, this is what we have to continue doing year after year because this is what's making this work? Is there that one, thing that you say, what this has to happen?
Yeah. And this is where from the athletic side, the village approach is so key. Our coaches, our head coaches, our assistant coaches, our staff, and then our student athletes. We have to lead, and then our student athletes will take our lead. But how do we treat people? How do we engage? How are we represented in the community? And there's many tentacles to that. The community service piece. There were some things early on, and it's funny because we just had a conversation as a senior staff on Tuesday about this. There were some things early on that we can't control everything, but here's what we can control. And one of those things was our academics, right? So we've seen our department go from a 3.1 GPA to our cumulative is a 3.34. So you're talking 260 student athletes, a 3.34 GPA. That was something we felt like we could control. There's things the NCAA puts in front of us about eligibility and retention, and they incentivize those metrics. We had not accomplished that here before at UTPA or UTRGV, so we really focused on that. Community service was another thing. We said if we want to truly rally the Valley, if we want people to come to our place and support us, we have to make sure that we're out in front of them and really challenge and encourage our coaches to not only build relationships within the department, but we got to go build relationships out in the community. And they've got to be present, they've got to be seen. And I think y'all will agree, because many of them, those that are most successful here are wonderful citizens in our community. They're contributors to our community. Their families are contributors to our community. And so that's something that we still talk about to this day. And with our coaches yesterday, we talked about doubling down on that. We have to double down. The two things were our campus and our community, because that's what's helped us get here. And we have to stay in front of that. And there's so many other contributing factors that I think have helped. But it starts with our coaches and our young people and our staff just tirelessly working. We feel like we will outwork anybody. And that's a credit to our team, because they give a lot, and it's paying off, and that's the fun part to start to be able to see. You got Sarah Hernandez, our associate AD for marketing, that ran at UTPA, and now she's a senior leader. You have Jonah Goldberg, who's been associated with the department for 14 years or so. To be able to see them kind of enjoy some of these moments when they look out there at the stadium and there's 5,000-6,000 people sitting there in a baseball game on a Friday, Saturday night, or to be able to see stores have our gear, or be able to walk around town and see y'all's gears on people. Those are moments for us that I enjoy watching our staff enjoy those, and that makes it special.
Speaking of advertising, I mean, what a turnaround on advertising, even from a few years back. Your marketing team has just been on fire. I mean, anybody I talked to on the streets are like, hey, man, like, we didn't know about the baseball games. We went to one. We're going back. We didn't know about the volleyball games. We went to one, and we're going back. I mean, that's all it takes. But really, your marketing team has just done a phenomenal job. I've seen it myself, but I thought maybe it's just me. But no, I mean, you guys have just put it together to where they're just on it. I mean, just every day.
Oh, they're fantastic, and but and again, it goes back to everything. Whatever's brewing, all the ingredients are all very, very important to this, and it's really what's rewarding is to see the efforts of our marketing team and of our coaches and of our players, to see the community respond, right? Because I can tell you that. This place has worked hard for a long time, and I think that going back to UTPA and certainly in the early years of UTRGV, but there were some missing pieces, right? But the staff, the coaches, the student athletes that have come before us, they've all worked their tails off. But now to be able to see it all pay off, and that's what's really neat is the marketing ideas, the campaigns that we're doing. I think it goes back to the blessing of people in the Valley saying that's my Division I team, and so. Whether it's a like on Facebook or a follow on Twitter or X, whatever it is, now as we market to the community, they're keeping up. They're seeing it. And whereas maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I can tell you, in my first year, my phone did not ring. Yeah. It did not ring. And it's very different today, and all of our team can say that. When our coaches show up somewhere, it's different, right? Yep. And that's a fun space to be in, but it's something that we talk a lot about humility and that hard work and just that grit, and it's such a precious thing that we all have right now that we have to respect because we got to recognize the hard work and everything that's gone into it to get to this point, and if we don't continue to foster it and steward it and take care of it, it can be gone like that tomorrow. Right. And so I think it's neat that we're in this phase of being able to see it come to reality, but it's not time to rest.
How does the Rio Grande Valley factor in on bringing in coaches or bringing in players? I mean, we've known. We talked to Coach Lord this last podcast, and he bought in and he says, "I'm staying no matter what happens. Yeah. I'm staying here. This is now my home." Yeah. I mean, how hard is it to get Coach Fennell here, Coach Bush here? Yeah. Is it something that that is the Valley attractive enough?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. And those of us that aren't from the Valley, we all remember our first time driving into the Valley or landing at the airport. And every one of us can tell you the wow and the whoa factor that we had, right? Because the perception and the reality are two totally different things. And that's a whole nother piece of this that I believe athletics and having Division I athletics, there's only 350 something Division I schools in the country. We have one right here, right? And there's only 260 or so Division I football institutions in the country, and we have one right here. And so our goal is to use athletics as a vehicle to help tell the story of the Valley. But back to your question about attracting people, whether it's us, whether it's other businesses, whether it's other industries or enterprises, and we feel like athletics can help with that brand to tell the story of how great of a place this is to live. But yes, I mean, the initial conversations with our coaches, you start to tell them about the institution. You tell them about the number of people that live here in the Valley. You tell them about the quality of life. Crazy to think, Top Golf is a legitimizer, right? They say, we have a Top Golf. But you can find some of the best.
And a Target.
What's that?
And a Target, I think one of the coaches said.
You got a Target? And then you've got, unbelievable places to eat. You've got great local cuisine. You got the chains. And then you talk about the island that's an hour away. It's so funny. Go back to recruiting. It's not just our coaches, but it's our student athletes. And Coach Bush was awesome to allow me to come and be part of our football weekends. And usually I would go towards the beginning. I had an event in Harlingen, so I got there a little bit late. So I got to listen to the program before I had a chance to speak to the recruits. And I'm sitting there listening to the presentation. And when they have the recruits in on Friday, it's all university, community, quality of life, and academics. And then Saturday is for football. So that's kind of how he breaks down his recruiting weekend. And so I'm sitting here listening to this presentation about everything to do here and the entire Rio Grande Valley, the island, all the support we have institutionally. And when I got up to talk to the parents, I said, y'all probably think this is too good to be true. And, some of the moms and dads in the crowd were nodding their head yes. And I said, guys, be honest with you, it's even better than what we just articulated. And you just have to get here to feel it and believe it. So that's the kind of vision or the message that we share as we're recruiting student athletes or coaches. But then they get here, they get to meet people, but during the interview process, they're pretty quiet, tight, right? So you don't get to expose them to too much, but you at least get to allow them to touch and feel the community. And it's a huge advantage for us because they're coming from other institutions as well, and they recognize that what we have brewing here is special. It doesn't matter if you're at a BYU like Coach Fennell or been at a Texas State or University of Houston or TCU like Coach Bush, wherever their path has been, they're well versed enough to know that what we have going on here is pretty neat, and that there's kind of a group of pioneers right now in our head coaching cohort that really want to do something for the first time. They want to take their program to the NCAAs for the first time. They want to get to that regional for the first time in many years, and so that's a draw in itself. But the Valley's easy to sell. It's easy to sell.
Good.
Yeah, Coach, one of the things I had, you were talking about some of the missing pieces that kind of maybe prevented success or limited the ability to kind of get us to where we're at today. And some of the efforts the university has been doing to try to grow, right, and build off of, right? So what are those missing pieces? And then now, monitoring and maintaining it so you don't go backwards on there. Maybe you can share some insights in terms of, how do you monitor it? How do you keep a pulse on how the community or how all these pieces are meshing together?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think some of those indicators we'll learn, together over the next couple of years. For us, attendance is huge, right? That's a great indicator. When we start seeing responses like we're seeing from the community, we know that something special is happening. Royalties, right? We track that religiously, and you guys are a huge part of that, and we've seen the increases there. Well, that means more and more people are buying our gear. They feel an affinity to who we are and what we're trying to provide to the community. That's the ultimate right there. I mean, it's one thing to go to a game, but if you're willing to put a ball cap, on your head, or you're willing to buy a shirt or a polo, or put a license plate on your car, those things, that's next level commitment. The vibe of our student body, that's really key, because while they're our students today and we want to offer them a great experience, we also want to make sure they're building the affinity that when they come back, they feel like they can be part of an alumni base that can be engaged, that can be welcomed back. So it may not look like one thing, but then there's also just the intangibles. What's the vibe? What's the feel? What's the sentiment in the community? How are our coaches, engaging and interacting? Are student athletes doing right, by the institution and the program and the RGV? And then one thing that you guys, don't get to see as often is that pulse of our student athlete cohort. Do they believe in who they're playing for? Do they understand the traditions that come before them? Do they have a passion for the region? And I can tell you, our kids are happy. Our student athletes, they love the Valley. When you talk about Coach Lord and what he expressed when he was on here, we have a lot of student athletes. We're seeing more and more that they may leave for a little bit, but they come back, or they don't leave after they finish their careers with us. And so you want to keep all those things vibrant and all those things trending in a positive direction. So there's probably not one certain thing that you keep your pulse on, but right now we're seeing a lot of good indicators that show it's not only a good time, but we're poised and positioned to grow even more and be even better.
And it's awesome that you keep using the term brewing, and it's funny because I was thinking about it seems like year after year since you guys kind of got this administration together, there's different flavors to the university.
Yeah.
And the question I have is as you're brewing this and as you're I guess tasting these flavors, is there a point that you say, okay, I gotta add another ingredient, or do I have to add more of the same ingredient?
Yeah.
How do you determine that, okay, things are kind of slowing down? And I know you mentioned indicators right now, but is there something that you see hey man, I got to do something to amp it up because it doesn't taste as good as it did last year?
Yeah. What other tricks do we have up our sleeve?
Yeah.
Right. It's funny because I used that analogy with our coaches the other day. How many more tricks do we have up our sleeve? And not that they're tricks, they're real. Yeah. They're substance. I tell you, the move to the Southland Conference is a big deal for us. This is a big deal for us to be able to be in a regional league that's a strong league that's got great Texas, Louisiana flair. There was a time that was the desired league, for UTPA and even the early years of UTRGV. And so to be able to move into that conference, I think that's gonna produce a lot of fruit for us that we don't even know what that looks like right now. Yeah. And there's some great things in store for the Southland in the short term, but also in the long term. Going back to just brew and ingredients and the taste, our consumable line is so cool, right? And it starts with George. I know he's usually a big part of these, but being able to have the first beer of any UT system school, that took 12 months. Yeah. That took 12 months to work through. And George was patient with us.
Semi-patient.
Maybe his outward feel towards us was patient.
You should see him behind the curtain.
That part
he protected us from until we got it done. Right. So we've got to see a little bit of that. But that's a huge legitimizer for us, right? Then it led into a salsa, and then we've got the huge barbecue and Vaquero Outfitters doing the fireworks show next week for us. So we'll have the big celebration with our new Vaquero's barbecue sauce. And people will ask, what does that have to do with athletics? And it has everything to do with it. It has everything to do with community. It has everything to do with that pride, that spirit, that pageantry, that allegiance. And so those are the areas I think you'll see us get even more creative as people start to try us out, as people start to check us out. And then it comes down to winning. We have to produce. And that's a common goal that I share with our coaches and our assistant coaches and our student athletes. Now that we can be in a league where our travel is going to be much more reasonable, our track teams had a heck of a start today. We're competing in the track championships in the WAC in Orem, Utah right now. Next year we're going to be in San Antonio. It makes a lot more sense, right? And I imagine our young people, they're going to produce well the next couple of days. Coach Hicks has done a phenomenal job. But if we're just taking a short ride to San Antonio for 3.5 hours, their bodies are going to be so much healthier, so much better. They're sleeping in their bed more. They're training at home. And so we have put ourselves in a position competitively. We hadn't even talked about facilities, right? But the facilities piece, the conference piece, the investment we're seeing from the community, creating budgets that our coaches can utilize. They're great stewards of the dollars that they're given, but they stretch those dollars and take care of our student athletes. Now it's about producing championships. And so I hope that's the next thing we have up our sleeve is producing consistent winners that will really excite our community.
That's awesome. And, I know we've talked about how, the coaches are recruiting, the coaches are doing all this. Obviously they're looking for that, characteristic in their athlete, in their player. Obviously you're doing some recruiting yourself as well. When you're picking up these coaches, what is that one characteristic that these coaches have to have in your eyes, that says, what, they're going to mesh well with what we're trying to make here.
And that's changing, right? That's changing as you've talked to some of our coaches too, and how their careers have evolved, and they've some of them have been in the game for 20, 30 years. That has evolved a lot. The college athletics, young people, has evolved a lot. I still believe in the tried and trues in the core values of college athletics and what it can teach young people, right? It's an experience that you either win or lose. You know, did you get the deal done or did you not? You know, were you successful or were you not? And then the adversity it teaches you, how you respond to adversity. Those things are the tried and trues that make college athletics what it is today. But finding, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
But finding coaches that know how to build relationships and work with our young people and still be able to teach those values, that's super important. And we're fortunate right now. We've got a great group of coaches that can do it. And they got to have grit. They have to have grit. They have got to have displayed, not just a passion for young people, but a passion to work. Because if at our level, we have to outwork people. And we have to outsmart people. We have to outplay people. There's a lot of things that it takes to be successful at our place. And so that passion for work and that grit and that tenacity is also something that's important. And then kind of that third piece is the ability to really ingrain themselves in our community, and really love the Rio Grande Valley, have a family, if they have a family that wants to be a part of our region and part of our culture. And when we find those, and we're fortunate to have several that fit that mold, they will be the most successful in coaching here at UTRGV.
Well, I've said it in a few podcasts ago. Southland, here we come. Get ready for us because UTRGV, they're going to come in and we're going to be competitive right off the bat.
Hope so. Yeah, hope
we
so.
No. We know so. we got you. We got you, Coach. We'll say it for you.
Ben's going to suit up in a couple
We'll
of games.
say it for you.
Coach,
And
you talked about adversity. What was the biggest problem coming out of COVID to get these athletes to come back and want to compete?
Come back to compete. I think part of it was the uncertainty, the uncertainty of what it looked like to compete, the difficulty of testing and all the things that we went through during that time. But our young people were ready to get back. They were ready to be together. That was hard. That was hard. And as a student athlete, having to totally alter your collegiate experience and your playing experience was very difficult for them. But we certainly had our challenges. We were very blessed to have a school of medicine, right? That's one thing that's a huge piece of our puzzle here at UTRGV, to have UT Health RGV to help us through that process. But and then we had some pretty exciting stuff for them once they got back, right? It goes back to that planning that we did, and to be able to really pretty quickly after we got through COVID to be able to talk about the facility enhancements and the things that we were going to reinvest back in them. That made it much easier to get them back at it. But it was a tough time for all of us. It's hard to even think that we lived through it.
Yeah.
But we're, those of us, that are sitting here today, I think we'd all agree we came out better and stronger, and a lot of us closer because of it.
right.
Yeah, it's really cool. That you mentioned, some of the words that you just used right now in regards to grit and, and then I know Coach Matlock talked about culture, and so did some of the other coaches, but it's obvious that culture is coming from the top, because you mentioned some of those words that they're already using. Yeah. So they're buying into the culture that you're creating, into the culture that Dr. Bailey creating, so it's really, really cool. And it's just awesome to feel that it is becoming a culture of UTRGV, and that's one thing that I think that's causing that train to continue moving, because you're just fueling it with the same stuff that needs to be fueled with, so it's cool.
But you guys, and I can't underscore this enough, y'all motivate us. Y'all truly do. Y'all are our inspiration. We do this for kids and community. And so, yes, we may want things to go a certain way, or we may want to do certain things, but we can only go as far as our community will allow us. We can only go as far as the inspiration around us. Because if it was just a group, going through COVID, we have about 260 student athletes and maybe another 90 or so coaches, staff, volunteers. We called ourselves 350 strong, right? That was kind of our internal mantra. If it was only those 350 that believed, we wouldn't make it very far, right? But now that we have a community that is cheering us on, it makes keeping that culture up even easier. And so again, I can't thank you guys enough for what y'all do.
Coach, I guess one of the things maybe we could have dived into it a little bit earlier, but we all know what football coaches do. We all know what basketball coaches do, baseball coaches do. Kind of maybe you can provide a little bit of context in terms of what the key objectives and key focus areas are for an athletic director.
What do I do?
Yeah.
What do you do, huh? Man, it's no day looks the same. No day looks the same, and that's what keeps it fun. Being an AD, you get to dabble in a lot of things. You get to work with so many different trades. You get to go back and forth between being with the coaches and the student athletes and the administrators and the faculty and the staff. But it starts with our student athletes, and that's what we try to communicate to them every day. Everything that we do it touches them. It doesn't matter if it's a business transaction with James Martinez, our senior associate AD for business, and his team. If it's an interpretation of compliance, or if it's a marketing idea, or if it's our custodial team, our facilities and operations team, our academics team, everything we do, there's all a direct line back to the student athletes. And so that's the fun part, getting to work with a diverse group of people, but no day looks the same. I mean, you could be in a capital projects meeting, at 7:30, 8 in the morning for an hour or two. You could, be doing things like this, or be at a Rotary or some place to be able to spread the good news, hopefully within the community. Or you could be in a marketing strategy session. I'm blessed to be on Dr. Bailey's cabinet leadership team, and so there's institutional things that I get to be a part of, and hopefully athletics is a part of a solution for things that we're trying to do on campus. But that's a key piece too, is becoming a true part of the fabric of the institution. And I think that's one thing that our department has done, I think, very well, is truly become part of that fabric and not being separate of the institution, but really being ingrained with everything that the school's about. So that's a long-winded answer to say that it's different every day, but it starts with the young people. And then community is a huge part of it as well.
Take us back to go ahead.
Yeah. So when you kind of a follow-up question to that, right? So when you talk about football and basketball, you talked about there's a win or a loss, right? And we even mentioned that's success, or did you succeed or did you fail? As an athletic director, there's a lot of things that you're working on, right? And you just described what some of those may be, but what does success look like? What is a successful AD versus a not successful AD?
Oh boy, I think there's so many different ways that can look, and that's truly for the community and the coaches and the institution to decide, right? I tell you, for me, when we're sitting in one of our venues and we look out and we see 3,000 people in the field house, or we see 6,500 at the baseball stadium, and a couple thousand people at volleyball, or what we're going to see at Vaquero Stadium here in a year and a half. And you get it all put in one space: community, university, the campus, the students, the pageantry, the pride, and then you get to see our young people have success and our coaches coach and our student athletes play. That's what you work for every day. Now, those are only a few days a year, right? So there's a whole lot that goes into making those moments, and that's the grit and the grind that it takes to make them happen. But when you can pull off those, and we can see them happen consistently. We talk a lot about that in our department. Milestone moments. Our first couple of years, we had some milestones. There were some big things that you guys may not remember, but we thought they were big, right? We thought, all right, we're turning the corner here. But those milestones may have been 5, 6, 7 months apart, and we talked about, hey, we know that we're making progress when those milestones get closer and closer and closer together. And we have not arrived by any stretch, but I can tell you we're starting to see those milestones get closer and closer and closer together. And that's where our feet have to move really, really fast, right? And that's the space that we're in right now. So anyway, I think those are things. And at the end of the day, if the student athletes are taken care of, if they graduated at a high level, they enjoyed their experience, the AD doesn't need to get in the way of coaches. They don't, they need to make sure that they let the coaches coach, give them the tools to be supported, not micromanage them and what they do with their program, but hopefully push all of us, to be better and do better. And I think if those things can be said about an administrator, then it's a job well done.
Yeah, no, it's very clear that you're being successful at that, right? And we see kind of what we were talking about, what the baseball attendance. And I recently, this is the first year I attended, right? And talking to Ben and Fabian, there's been a lot of growth in that. We talked about the volleyball games just across, and just you mentioned it earlier, the awakening, and it's very real, right? Being a Valley resident, I can say that I never really felt that way, or kind of felt that pulse or that vibe around here until recently. The last few years around. And I think that, we were seeing that uptick along the way, and then you see kind of a step change when the football program got announced and kind of where that set you up and the amount of ground you were able to cover in a very short period of time, especially coming, out of COVID on the back end of it. So,
and then, I mentioned Vaquero Stadium, and you look at Bob and Janet Vaquero, who have been so invested in this community for so long and so invested in our institution. And to see the game-changing support that they continue to give and what they're doing for our football program and athletics in general, boy, those are special, right? And it's one of the top 40, we were told, top 40 gifts of all time, single gifts in athletics department. And again, right here by our very own Bob and Janet Vaquero here in the Rio Grande Valley. So that's certainly special.
I think that it was huge for the athletic program to say, hey, you know what, yes, we are getting football, but we're going to put money at the baseball stadium. We're going to put money at the soccer field. I mean, you guys put money everywhere. Yeah. I mean, obviously football took a big chunk of it, but, I mean, you guys took the time and effort to say, hey, you know what, we're going to improve everything all the way around.
Yeah, and that goes back to, fall of 2019, and we got to campus. And I say there's a total of 7 of us from Little Rock that are here at UTRGV. All right, so we have a few coaches. I'm blessed to have a senior associate AD for facilities and operations, John Evans, a deputy AD, Molly Kastner, Seth Jones, who you guys know, and our head women's soccer coach, Mark Foster, was our coach there, Audra, associate head coach. So when I say we, there was a group of us, right? So we get here in the fall of 19, and we have 16 sports at the time, right? So we know swim and dive 17, football is 18. But of the 16 sports, only 4 had their own locker rooms. 4. So we're sitting here going, we're Division I. We expect our coaches to go and compete. Community expects them to win. But you're having to recruit and train and take care of young men and women, and they don't have a locker room. And so I remember talking to Dr. Bailey early on. I said, if we're going to do football with your support, Dr. Bailey, we need to make sure we take care of the current programs that have been competing for 40, 50, 60, 70 years here. If not, we're going to have a problem on our hands, right? If not, because we all know football. Football's king. King in the South. It's king in Texas. But it was so important that we had a strategy, because there's some institutions and some we know well that have hardly done anything for their other sports. And some of them are just now getting around to it 10, 15, 20 years later of taking care of their other programs, whereas football had received the bulk of the support. And so that's one of the strategies I'm probably most proud of our team for, is finding a way to allow football to be a vehicle to take care of everybody. Mm-hmm. And to be able to look our coaches in the eyes and say, listen, we're going to do this, but we're going to make sure that you're taken care of first. We're going to put you in the best position and your program's in the best position to win before we start football. And by the time we get to fall of 2025, we started construction on these projects in 2022. By the fall of 2025, it'll have been $160 million in athletic facility investments. And that's from football to tennis to golf to basketball, volleyball, et cetera. And so at the end of the day, everybody is going to be better positioned because we started football versus the other way around. And I think that has helped our culture and our morale. And then you have Coach Bush, who just has a great personality. That was also very important for us. Somebody who's going to come in, be great in the community, but also be great with our current programs. I mean, you'll find him at baseball and basketball and volleyball games, and his coaching staff reflects that. They're very involved in our department. And so we wanted to do this, but selfishly, I wanted to do it, and I didn't want to have to look at a group of coaches and say, why are they getting everything, right? So we got ahead of that, and Dr. Bailey deserves so much credit.
Oh, you said it perfectly. I mean, I was about to ask that question. How do you convince other programs, to understand that? But you said it perfectly. I mean, where, that football, and it's undeniable, and then you'd have to be naive to say no, but, football is that vehicle that's going to get you there, right. But it's awesome how you kind of put these guys, in a sense, first and said, hey, we're going to get these guys ready to go, but football is also going to be obviously going to take a lot of it, but I mean, you said it perfectly. That is probably one of the best things I've heard, in the sense of getting the community and getting not the community, but the rest of the coaches involved in this program, and understanding that, hey, this is because of football.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And the timing was key, right?
Yeah.
And we may, there may be a project that goes a little bit into fall of 2025, but we're going to hit it, and it was so important for our student athletes. When we went to them, when we had the student referendum, we informed our student athletes first. And boy, in that same breath, in that same sentence, you're like, but wait, let me show you these facilities here. Yeah. And of course they're fired up and they're excited to welcome the 75 young men that Coach Bush is going to bring in. Coach Graham, our swim and dive, will have a smaller roster this year. They will compete, but she'll grow that roster to 30 young ladies. So that 260 cohort of student athletes will be 410, 420, here in the next 12, 15 months. And so that in itself is a huge growth for us.
Just because I wasn't asked this earlier, and I didn't get to, because we just kind of went in straight into today. Take us back to 2018. Chase Conque getting the phone call in Little Rock from Dr. Bailey.
Yeah, it's there's a mutual person in the middle. To first express that hey, this position's open, and it's something that I think you need to look at. And I didn't know Dr. Bailey. I didn't know anybody in the Rio Grande Valley at the time. But I knew some people that had been here, that had coached here, and I knew of Dr. Bailey. And so immediately you take it serious. And then you go, gosh, this guy he's been a CEO, he's been a chancellor at UMKC, at Texas Tech, at the University of Alabama. You start to see what's already transpired at that time, in just the first couple of years of UTRGV. It was intriguing from the beginning. I actually did my first interview was kind of typical airport interview, right? So they bring a lot of candidates into an undisclosed location outside of the valley, and had a chance to visit, obviously, with Dr. Bailey and a couple of members of his leadership team that made up the search committee. And then just a few days later was invited to come down with Lisa. And it was a grueling interview process. It was 3 days. It went over a three-day period, and they put me through the car wash. And there was there was a lot of internal pieces to it, but again, this set the tone for me. There was a half a day that there was nothing but touring the Rio Grande Valley. They didn't take me to Padre. That was a mistake. If they had just taken me to Padre from the beginning,
we got to show you the bad part.
But we were in Harlingen, and obviously went through the Mid Valley. And then we spent time in Brownsville, and it made it very clear at that point that for this institution to be successful and for the department to be successful, it was going to take the entire Rio Grande Valley. But it was pretty cool. Dr. Bailey, I had caught wind that he wanted to make the hire before a candidate left town. And it's August 1st, which ironically was my birthday. It was the last day of the interview process. And we're staying in South McAllen. The only piece of the interview schedule that day was to meet one-on-one with Dr. Bailey. There was a community reception the night before, which is the most unfair thing you can go through as a candidate. You're sitting there drinking water. They're all drinking beer and whiskey, and they're just firing questions at you, for about an hour. I thought that went okay. And so I'm meeting with Dr. Bailey. We have a nice visit, but left there not knowing, and so I went back to the hotel. My flight wasn't until later in the evening because they had, I think there was maybe a couple of other candidates that were part of the process. And you felt like you were, waiting for that knock on the door in the, the NFL Hall of Fame, right? You're just sitting there, and it's Lisa and I. It's my birthday. She's trying to tell me happy. I don't want. No, I'm so freaking nervous right now. I don't want to talk about my birthday. And so anyway, she finally got me in the car. She says, let's go for a ride. And then within about 15 minutes of that, Dr. Bailey called and said, happy birthday. I want to offer you the vice president athletic director job. And so we quickly jetted up to his office and got to spend time with him and some of the leadership team. And but the minute those things happen, I was a sitting AD, and those are big shifts for the other institution, right? And so there's a way you want to do that right. Dr. Bailey afforded me a 3 or 4 week transition so we could really wind down, our time in Little Rock, and then, got here towards the end of August. But that was a fun time. That was certainly special. And my family came pretty short thereafter. And since then, it's been an awesome home for us.
That's a heck of a story. That's for sure. That's one of the best stories we've heard.
That's birthday, for sure.
Birthday. Yeah,
right.
It was really special.
And I know you use the word, again, you just used it right now, use the word special again, but how special and how much pride does it give you to know that Dr. Bailey also hired Nick Saban? And basically, this is the guy who made that, and now he's
I think he uses this hire as he uses it more than hiring Nick Saban. Yeah, that's what I hear.
That's just a lie. But,
That's what I hear.
no, but you go back to what he's been a part of. You know what he's experienced, and he's seen it all. You know, and he's seen it work before. He's seen the challenges. He's worked with a lot of administrators, a lot of ADs, and we take his lead. I mean, we take his lead and Val's lead and the passion they have for this community. But he's a huge part of a significant part of our success. If you don't have a supportive president and CEO of the institution, it doesn't matter what area you represent, but certainly in athletics, it can make or break you. Yep. And as we look back in this time frame in our history, 10, 15, 20 years from now, I hope he is as celebrated as he should be and needs to be, because if it's not for that person that sits in that chair and it being Guy Bailey today, none of this would be possible.
And it's like stories like this and sharing it that make that visible, right? I mean, he's not going out there telling people like this, right?
Never would.
Yeah. He never would, right? People don't do that, right? Dr. Bailey wouldn't do that. But it's appreciating like us having some visibility, right? Because we see the pieces, we see the effects, right? We see the attendance out there, we see the energy around there, but being able to trickle that down, where that initiated from is not very clear and visible. So when you share your stories like that, it provides us a different perspective, and like there's more to it.
Yeah.
And hopefully it provides the community a different perspective, and again, I think it's one of the big reasons we wanted to do this show is to kind of show the community, hey, they're real people. They're not just, head coaches of a Division I school. They're not just directors of a Division I school. They're regular people. And I think once people start seeing that in the community, and once the community starts realizing, man, they are part of the community. I mean, that's not just a job. They're part of what we're about. And I think that's what it shows. And it really shows, the way you guys go out there in the community, and it is a big deal, and I go back and think as a kid, how big of a deal it was for me to see my head varsity coach as a sixth grader. I mean, can you imagine now you're seeing these Division I coaches and these Division I players out in the community? I mean, that's what's really getting these people fired up.
Well, it means a lot for the community, and I speak for them when you guys are very approachable. Yep. I mean, you're walking down third base line at a baseball park, just shaking people's hands, and just we seen Coach Matlock at breakfast eating his pancakes. Coach Lane at Lowe's because Stacy wants to build something.
Yeah, whatever the project of the week is. Yeah.
Right. So just very approachable. Yeah. I mean, that makes a difference to us. Knowing that you guys are just one of us.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And those of us that have, families, they're being raised in our community. They're going to our schools. They're playing little league. They and you can tell this. The Valley can tell if it's genuine or not, right? And we were talking about South Louisiana earlier, and I think that's a lot of the similarities from where I'm originally from. Is you can't fake it, and so the coaches and y'all know them. I mean, they're knee deep in the community, but what's gratifying for them right now, and they may not tell you, is that they're starting to feel it both ways, right? They're starting to feel that love and support from the community right now. And what you guys do and the relationships that you have with our coaches. I was just telling one of our big supporters this the other day, and I don't think this can be messaged enough. As our coaches have success, it takes all of us to keep them, right? It takes a whole community to keep them. It takes the friendships. It takes the encouragement. It takes the relationships with the family. It takes all of us to do that. And so, for us, as our coaches, are having success and will continue or start to have success, let's get ahead of that now, right? Let's build those relationships now, so when they have an opportunity to look elsewhere, money's not everything, right? Yeah. But if their family's happy, if they feel supported, if they feel like their program, there's people that have their arms around it, that's a role that we all play, not just the institution, but the community as well. And so that's what helps us keep coaches here. And if they're happy and their families are happy, they will stay. Now sometimes there's offers that we just can't compete with, right? And we're happy for them. But the community plays a big part in their happiness and retaining them here at the university. university.
It's awesome. Like it's an obvious, and I don't want to use the term. I don't know what other term to use, but it's obvious give and take type of thing, where it's not just a taking time from the university. The university is definitely giving back, but it's so awesome to. You mentioned the backers; they gave a substantial amount of money, for the stadium. But when you see an organization, a amazing company as big as the backers to give and to be a part of this, it allows for the smaller businesses like us, and we have a small part that we can give back, and it makes you proud. Like, man, if these guys are doing it, they're doing something for a reason.
That's right.
It's
that's
like,
right.
I want to jump on that bandwagon too.
Exactly.
But it's just that, that you've made, and you, and I say you as your administration as well, that you've created that we want to be a part of this train. We want to be a part of it. And, but again, people like that and businesses like that lead by example. But it's just really cool to kind of see that,
Absolutely.
definitely happening.
And speaking of Vaquers, that facility, you guys, it's orange seats already.
Perfect. Yeah.
This is planned.
Football ready. How do you think this was planned? Probably, I'm not sure, but what a great facility to start. And that must be something for Coach Bush to say, hey, you know what? I can't wait to get my recruit down here because I want to show him that football field.
That's right. Yeah.
I want to walk out of that tunnel with him.
It's a game changer for us, and the first piece was the Vaquero's Performance Center that we're constructing on campus right now. So that's a $45 million, 45,000 square foot facility. And we see it when we're at baseball, right? It's being constructed there, be open in July. That's where our young people will live and work every day. Locker rooms, coaches' offices, academic success, weight room, sports medicine, and then you couple that with what's going to be one of the best Division I FCS stadiums in the country. That's the total package, right? And that's what excites Coach Bush is that now he has the total package to be able to recruit to be able to provide an experience to, and then you look at the stadium itself. It is a phenomenal stadium. It's an awesome piece of property. There's some people that maybe haven't spent a lot of time out there. They don't know what's behind the east side of that stadium and the amphitheater and the park area. And so you can quickly visualize how special game day is going to be for us with the tailgating and everything that can happen there from the students' perspective, but also the community at large. We're going to, here in about 45 days, start some pretty intense construction out there and really get it ready for college football come August of 2025. There's some, we'd like to add some seating in that south end zone, not to the tune of where we probably will add at some point, but try to get it from 9,500, 10,000 closer to 11,500, 12,000, and do some things that'll make the suite level even more attractive for our fans, and some things that we'll do at the field, looking at some premium seating options and low seating in the north end zone. But then there's just some fundamental stuff. It's a great stadium for soccer, but you talk about a roster of 85, 90 dudes, you got to have a much bigger locker room, right? So we've got some locker room infrastructure that we have to work on, press box, really expanding that to make sure our ESPN Plus broadcast, our radio, our print media, local media, visiting coaches, home coaches, there's some requirements that we have to address. So we'll have about 12 months to get it done. And it's going to be a grind, but it already is and will be just a fantastic college football game day.
That's that area there. If you look at it, and the other day I was at the park, and it's like right there. That whole area can be an entire just day of just enjoyment. Because you have the park right there. And I don't know how easy it would be for the city just to knock that fence down and give people the access to go from the stadium to there, and it's just so cool. But you mentioned July. So they're going to finish this in July? This July?
No, we will start this summer. So we'll have about 12 months starting July 24.
But you said that there was the one that they're building
new
now.
Practice field.
July 25. Both will be somewhat complete around the same time. So the Vaquero's Performance Center, we broke ground late November. And so that project will wrap up about the same time the stadium finishes.
When do you all start pushing dirt for softball?
That's the next episode.
One step at a time.
I thought I'd throw a curveball in there.
Steps.
Well done. No, I tell you, that's an awesome sport here in the Valley, and there's tremendous passion for it. Talented young people. Our goal right now is with women's swimming and diving, the natatorium, the partnership we have with City Fire. That's one of the best natatoriums in the country, not just in the state of Texas, but one of the best in the country. And so we've got our 2 programs. We want to get them off the ground, start them right. But we know that expansion's in our future. But I will say this: we're at 18 sports. Another sport would make 19. That is a very large, kind of mid-major FCS athletics department. You rarely see a department with that many sports. And so to be able to contribute that volume of student athletes to the community and have those kind of offerings, already today it is, and then anything we do in the future, that's a real feather in the cap of UTRGV in the Rio Grande Valley.
Right. Yeah, I thought I'd throw that curveball in there.
Well done. Well
done. Coach Chase, maybe learn a little bit out. Yeah, we've talked a lot about the university athletic director and kind of your background in there, but maybe you can share a little bit about, as a person, who you are, what kind of things you do when you're not being the athletic director.
Not much time, but family and work. Those are 2 things that I'm blessed with an unbelievable wife that allows me to do this. She's so supportive, so involved. She doesn't miss a game. I mean, you look up, it's volleyball, it's soccer, it's basketball, it's baseball. And what's neat is, the work-life balance thing in athletics really doesn't work. For it really to work, there's got to be an integration. And that's what's really neat about the jobs we have, is that our families can come with us. They can be part of it. They can be at the games. Now, maybe we're not sitting there and watching the game together, or, maybe an inning or 2 or a quarter of a game, but they're there. And for me, selfishly, it's how I grew up around college athletics. But our young our girls, we have 3 daughters, they get to be around a cool group of kids. They get to see student athletes of all backgrounds and diverse backgrounds, and from all over not just the valley or the state or the country, but from all over the world. And that's so cool to see them grow up in that environment. And Lisa and I don't take that for granted. I mean, that's a real blessing for us. And our student athletes are very welcoming. They, sometimes our daughters will jump on the bus, and they've been on the bus with Coach Lord going to a game, and he's let her sit on the bench before, which is crazy. But they get to do some pretty neat things, and they're grateful for that. Our faith's very important to us. We're members here at St. Joseph here in Edinburgh. Nice. Our daughters are very much involved in the community and playing basketball and volleyball and dance, but they keep us busy. They keep us on our toes for sure.
Awesome. I'm going to ask one of the questions that we ask, fairly often. Again, just to kind of get to know you, and I know you've been here for several years now. Favorite restaurants, man? Where do you like to go? What type of food? I know you say you're from Louisiana, but
great. I mean, that's such a hard question. Love Barrel House here in town. That's a great spot. Love Salome when they were open as a restaurant. It's always great to they open it now for different events. Ambra's fantastic. There's a place in McAllen, the Tortilla Factory. You know about that? In downtown off of Beaumont. I'll have to send you the link after. I mean, supposedly it's been around for like 80, 90 years, but I think the best breakfast tacos I've had, but not to offend anybody. But it's pretty fantastic. The Tortilla Factory.
Pretty serious claim there.
But the food will get you in trouble here if you're not careful. So that's something you got to stay ahead of. It'll get you in trouble.
How does it compare to Louisiana cuisine?
Oh, be honest now.
Yeah, no, very similar. I mean, a lot of rice base, right? I mean, maybe not have the tortillas and the chips like we do here, but you take a jambalaya or a paella, right? Like there's just so many similarities between the different dishes, and it's good. And people here love to celebrate. They love to eat. They love to be together, have a drink or two, and that's where the similarities there's so much in common between both regions, but both beautiful cultures that really start with family and people.
Yeah. The other thing, I guess, South, I work with a lot of people from, I guess, that same area, and fishing and hunting is a pretty big thing down there. What's your experience or kind of your?
Not much of a hunter. I think my dad, being a college football coach, we were always traveling with him. But I love to fish. Don't get to do it as much. In Arkansas, there's great trout fishing there. So Little Red was just north of Little Rock that I would go and fish on the weekends. And don't do it enough at Padre, but just love to get there and fish. May not catch a thing, but there's nothing better.
Yeah, we'll change that for you real quick.
Sounds great.
We know a few people who know some people who know some people.
Yeah, I know during dove season we have to invite you over, probably at Ben's place, but make a pretty good dove jambalaya, man.
Let's do it. I haven't had that before. That'd be a good one.
Yes, sir. But pretty cool, man. And again, I was going to ask you the breakfast taco thing, and I know George isn't here. But
that's
I
George's
already,
question, by the
Gotcha.
way.
I think you already
It
answered
was
that.
very organic. It was
I'll send
very,
you, it's a good spot. We'll have to check it out.
Awesome.
Well, Coach, again, we appreciate it, and Fabian's gonna, as you're talking about your path to UTRGV to today, really, I can't help but think of George. Kind of talks a little bit about. I'm sorry, I called you George just now.
You did. That's embarrassing.
I'll let him finish this thought. Maybe he can.
Fabian talks a little bit about getting on the saddle and just putting your boots on, putting your hat on, and just saying, "Let's go." And listening to your story, I mean, that's almost exactly what you did. You went from Little Rock, Arkansas. I think what the student population is maybe
Less than 10,000. Yeah,
we'll call it 10,000, and then you come over here, 32,000 strong, and growing, and you just put your boots on the ground and just got after it, really, and that means a lot to everything that we have today, So, and we know that throughout we've talked to several coaches, and they all revert back to Chase, the leader. So I mean, I know you won't take it, but I mean they have you. I mean, on another level, and that's awesome. It's awesome that we can have you here as well. That we know that you're a phone call away. But this is amazing again. So I'll let Fabian talk a little. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, for me, again, I can't say enough about the energy that I just feel it, right? And really can't describe it. It's kind of one of those intangibles that you see here. I mean, we do see a little bit about it, right? Because we do sell some UTRGV merchandise, and it's every day someone's coming in here to pick something up. Ben's running Vaquero Outfitters, and he's constantly, stocking up. So the energy is there, and I don't know, just really excited about how all that's coming together and how the different pieces are, and just like, I mean, we're excited because you're excited, because Dr. Bailey's excited, everybody's excited, and we're just all really, really looking forward to everything that's ahead of us, as well as trying to do what we can do to be a part of it and support it as best as we can.
Appreciate that.
That's one of the biggest things I tell people. It's like, at first, obviously, we run a business. So when we were carrying UTRGV, we saw it as a, man, we're going to be able to do well, financially by selling this stuff. But honestly, within 6 months, it changed in my mind. And it's more of a pride thing now. Now we're able to say we sell UTRGV stuff, and I don't care if we make a little bit of money off it or not, but it's like one of those things where, and I keep saying it's a train that a lot of people are wanting to get on, but I think there's a lot more people that do need to get on. But they don't realize how big this train is. They don't realize how big this institution is and how important it is, not only to the valley or to Edinburgh, but to the valley and to the whole area, because it's just a massive freight train coming through, and I think everybody needs to jump on it, man. And that's, a big reason that I have a lot of pride in, and I think we have a lot of pride in this show, is because we're hopefully making people aware, like, hey, man, like, jump on this train as soon as you can, because it's going to go, and it's going to be one of those things like, oh, you're just jumping on the bandwagon now. That right now it's still a train. It's still one of those things where it's going, but it's just picking up so much steam.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But again, I can't thank you enough for taking a little bit of your time, to come on here, man. Thank you so much. And I was going to have my closing remarks, but I can't anymore because Ben took them from me.
But we do. Go ahead.
Well, what is it? Courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. Right, that's kind of what you were talking about, and that's something for a long time that's just always stuck with me, and that's what you guys have done as well. And listen, I get to interface with y'all from the UTRGV standpoint, but I'm also well aware of everything that you do. I know a little bit about a lot of what you do in the community and what you do to make this place special. And there's been many a times that you guys have said we're gonna saddle up and push on. And to your point, yes, this place will grow, and we need everybody to be a part of it, and we will welcome everybody with open arms. And it's not just for our tenure here, coaches, ADs, people come and go, right? This is the Valley's program. But how special for you guys, when you look back on these moments, to say, guys, we were with them from the beginning, and we've been with them to help them get this thing going. Those people 10, 15 years from now that jump on board, we're going to invite them and say, come on. But there's going to be a special sense of pride that you guys are going to feel that's going to make great stories and great memories that we're going to create over the next few years. And that's inspiring for us. That is fun for us to see you guys not just believe in us, but also to see y'all have fun with it. And that's where we'll continue to work and have fun together and make memories.
Yes, sir. Again, thank you so much for everything. Again, I will continue saying, do you have
Sorry,
something
guys.
else?
Yeah, we got
Before we
to.
close, Mr. Oscar Serna said, Sam, you're welcome to bring your team. So I'm guessing, Coach, you're invited to go fishing.
There it is.
Nice.
You
My
got it.
buddy Oscar.
Thank you.
He's
You're
a
in.
coworker of mine. He's got
That's
like
awesome.
a 27-foot.
Mini yacht.
It's almost like that. He's got like 350s on there, and
There it is, Coach.
it's a massive
awesome.
boat.
There it
So,
is.
Big time.
Coach,
Thank
we're,
you.
we're gonna make that happen.
Yes,
Fantastic.
sir. No, for sure.
And
man.
don't forget, next weekend is last home series for baseball. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday noon game. Thursday will be what's going on Thursday? Oh, barbecue sauce.
Barbecue,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're
Barbecue
releasing
sauce.
the Jenks barbecue sauce. So be sure you're out there for that. Free samples at the gate and at the tailgate as well. So it'll be a party as well. Music, fun, and you'll get to see us there.
Us again.
So, Friday night fireworks. Don't miss out on that, and buy your tickets now because firework night is always a good night.
It's always a big night. It'll be fun. It'll be fun at the ballpark next week.
Yeah, and go. And I think they're contending, so we got to win a few games, get in the tournament, so we can, get out there and shake it up for the WAC. The last time actually for the WAC.
This will be our last WAC tournament, and what a special year. Beat UT. We didn't even talk about that. That was, that was a heck of a win. 53 years in the making.
Yeah.
And then I know Coach Matlock has him playing well, so big weekend in California this weekend, and then back at home to make a run at this thing.
Yeah, and one last thing was the barbecue on Thursday. We'll be at the right field barbecue designated barbecue area.
Correct.
Go out there, check us out. We'll be out there with Big George as well, and a few other fellas, including Wing Barn as well. Wing Barn will be out there as well,
Yeah,
and
so-
Tio Pelon will be out there as well. The salsa. So
Yeah, so we'll have.
we'll be all.
definitely-
Everybody will be out there.
Actually, yeah, who won't be?
That's right. That's right.
So don't be the one that's not there.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Don't be the person that's not there.
So again, guys, real quick, and then we put a little plug in here. Obviously, Vaquero Up is sponsored by G3 Scrap Metal, which is Ben is the owner, and Vaquero Outfitters, which is Ben is the co-owner, also with his wife. And, of course, Sam and myself are the owners of 7 Day Addiction. And, of course, George, who's not here. I don't know why. I'll call him later. But 5x5.
Probably heard about this tortilla factory.
Yeah.
It's already there.
He's all like, I gotta
We're
go
gonna
check this
unexcuse
out. It's
this
probably about
absence,
wind
George,
of
by the
it.
way.
Or he probably called.
So 5x5.
Tasted it.
And, again, I do want to make sure that Ben gets his accolades for this, man. Ben is sponsoring the fireworks. And, again, thank you so much for everything you do for us and for the community. And I'm definitely going to enjoy those fireworks with a White Claw, I believe.
With a whatever.
Los Vaqueros. Come on.
Vaqueros beer. Vaqueros beer.
Again, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. Like we say every time we close, guys, get those boots on, cowboy up. But like we say, Vaquero up, man. Get out there and V's up, baby.